I'm not looking forward to this, to be honest.
Well, you should be, because I get asked a lot, all the time, a bit about the history and, about sort of the passion that you put into it. And there is a backstory to it. And I think we just need to, it's hard for me to explain it to people. And I think people need to hear it from you, which is why I think it was really important that we did this. And also it's important for anybody that's interested in the academy as well, that it's more than just a business. There's actually something that sits behind it, and there's a person and people that are driving it for a particular reason. And it goes back years, well before this.
It goes back way before KBB was even a sperm.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
I thought you might.
Some of them were quite deep questions.
Okay.
They might not be 100% associated to the academy, but where you can try and link it to something to do with the academy.
I think it's worth noting as well that none of the interviews we've done so far have actually been scripted.
No.
With the guys, obviously there's points that we cover, we do cover the same things, but no one's had scripted answers, have they?
No.
I don't got a fucking clue what you're about to ask me. No. As you can probably tell by my face, I'm like, fucking hell. If the first question is why you're such a twat, I'm walking out.
And if there's anyone that's going to open you up, it's me, isn't it? Right, so
let's get into it.
Okay. So the first question I wanted to sort of get into it with you was, how emotionally invested should a business coach or mentor really be with their clients or academy members' success? But really, where do you draw that line?
I think as a coach, and even as a human, I think you have to be cruel to be kind sometimes. I think that some people, you got to have empathy for people is the first thing. You got to understand that not everyone's cut out to do it. The first thing that a clever person should work out about business is whether a business is for them or not. Because some people just have to be honest and say, trying to do something bigger than what I'm already doing just isn't me. So I think the first thing to sort of get to as a coach is this right for you? And sometimes I've had honest conversation with people. I've just said to them, and you've said it to people, we've said it to people about the academy. I've coached people over the years and said, look, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, this isn't, you can't drag people through it. How emotionally invested you should be is it's a fine line, this, because you have to have empathy for their life, because we all have difficulties. But no matter how bad the emotional investment or, whatever the thing is they want you to be invested in, it always usually equals an excuse. And when you're coaching someone, if you're a gym coach or a PT or something like that, and someone's saying, but I just love cheeseburgers, then you're not going to fucking help them, are you? Yeah. If every time they go past McDonald's, they can't resist going through the drive-through, and that's their habit, then, unfortunately, as good you are as a coach, you'll never change them. So, and I think that when people have difficulties in their life, it's very easy to, the fucking sob stories. Do you know what I mean? It's the sob stories, innit? And I've got better at it, but over the years, it'd be like someone would have something that's sad and genuinely sad that's happened in their life. But at some point, you have to draw the line. At some point, you got to say, how long am I going to let this thing bother me for? How long is this going to rule me for? And it's harsh, but the sooner you do it, the better.
Yeah, and I think there's a good example of that recently, where somebody had a couple of family members pass away recently, didn't they?
Yeah.
And we had sort of a coaching session with them, and the handling was, well, we need to put that aside to one side.
Need to put it to one side. And unfortunately, as bad as it is, my business feeds people. People's mortgages depend on my business. People's families, livelihoods, all the academy members depend on me and my team performing. So if my fucking dog dies tomorrow, or even worst case scenario, my wife passes away or something terrible, the sooner I've got to get back on my feet at some point. Do you know what I mean? I can't live off that forever. That I haven't done it because of that reason. Do you know what I mean? At some point, I've got to go back to what I'm supposed to be doing, and my purpose isn't, to feel sorry for myself. My purpose is to do what I'm supposed to do. And I think that when people, aren't in touch with their purpose, they find all these other reasons not to do things, and and they use emotional things like that to make other people feel sorry for them. And I think it's, people might look at this and go, fucking hell, you're being heartless, but make choices. You've got to make tough choices and be a tough person if you want to go far. If you're soft and everything that goes wrong is going to stop you, you're not going to make it.
So during this journey, you had a personal situation very similar to that happen to you. And how did you find that you could bounce back from that? What did you do personally to bounce back from that?
I've had loads, to be honest.
What would you say your number one coping strategy would be?
You fucking hell. I wouldn't want to say compartmentalize. I think you do need to compartmentalize to some degree. You've got to see the bigger picture. You've got to look 10 years ahead. And you've got to see that what you're doing now, every minute movement that you make today, it's like, that thing where they say 1 millimeter here equals 2 miles over there. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what every day is like. So every bad decision or everything that goes not in your favor or thing that you let bother you amplifies over time. Do you know what I mean? So it's understanding like, if I don't get something in its box very quickly and deal with it, it will just snowball into a really big problem. And I think that realization first is the most important thing that you have to remember in those moments, is that shit happens and it also goes away.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes when shit happens, people get into such a tiz that they don't see the moment where it'll go away.
Do you think you got more resilient over time?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that resilience comes from having your vision and having a plan. Do you know what I mean? Resilience won't happen if you didn't start with a plan. Because I explained this on a clinic the other day, that if you have a plan and something goes slightly off that plan, you can pivot. Yeah. So if you're going off in that direction, you're shit, I need to change something. I can move slightly and go in that direction, but you know what the end goal is. You know where it is you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a plan, all you're going to see is that problem and not see past it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like us saying, like, we're trying to achieve that thing. So between now and there, how many fucking challenges have we had? Loads. But every time they happen, we go, right, well, we just need to get around it.
Yeah.
It's like a traffic cone to us. Do you know what I mean? It's like, think about it as like a traffic cone.
Yeah.
Someone puts a traffic cone in your way, you have to drive around it. You know what I mean? If someone puts if you haven't got a plan, that traffic cone becomes a wall.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%.
So if you have the plan, right, I've got a problem. It might be a bereavement, it might be something that's happened, you might get divorced, it might be this, it might be that, it might be that. But if you know where you're trying to get in the long term, you'll realize, all right, shit happens, but shit goes. Shit happens and shit goes, and then good times come and good times go. And that life experience is, a lot of people don't even realize that they've got it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. People just wash through life so nonchalantly, not even realizing what's going on around them. That they have got a lot of resilience and they don't actually realize that they've got it. They're still here.
Yeah.
They're still here after all these years and they're still smiling and getting on with it. That's resilience in itself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think some people think, business people like me have got this uber resilience. No, I just take that same resilience and I just apply it to bigger things. It's the same thing. But some people look at these other things that people like me do and go, that's bigger than what I do. But it's not.
No.
It's just taking the same thinking. It's like if you have a little bump on the way home, someone goes into the back of your car. It's a minor inconvenience, but it'll be gone in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Some of these things just happen. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's the same mindset you've got to put to all those things, to everything. There's been a bump, just get over it and move on. Do you know what I mean? Where some people just that's where you're getting back to this emotional, freaking hell, how much emotional compassion do you need to have? I mean, at some point you need to go, look, mate, it's just a bump. Let's fucking move on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We can't dine out on that forever. We've got to fucking keep going. So yeah, you do get more resilient, but a lot of it comes from understanding that everything's the same. Do you know what I mean? And business challenges are the same as life challenges. They're the same as every challenge. They're just the same. But people think when they go into a business, it's going to be a different thing. The first thing people think when they go into a business, it's all going to be fucking sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
That's the first misconception that people have of businesses. It's like, this uninformed optimism stage one, where they're just going into it and they're like, fucking hell. But then they go into informed pessimism, where they realize it's not all fucking good. And then they've got to get through the valley of death before they go up to stage 4, which is obviously informed optimism. You know what I mean? So resilience will build over time, but you already have it. You just got to realize that you've already got it.
Yeah.
Some people are just soft in the head. I will just make a caveat that some people are just fucking soft and will never get out of making excuses.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that everyone's going to have what it takes. They're not. But everyone deep down does have what it takes. They either realize it or they don't.
Yeah. So the next one's about sort of, have you ever had a coaching client or an academy member's failure where it feels like a personal one? And did it impact your approach going forward?
I think so, yeah. And I say I think so because I think if I'm going to reflect on this properly, I don't think it was their failure that bothered me. I want everyone to do well, but like I've just said, you have to accept that some people aren't going to do it. Some people aren't going to make it. Some people will never realize the resilience they've got. Some people will never achieve what they want to achieve because they can't get out their own way. They're lazy. They won't take responsibility, whatever the things might be. And we can't change that as coaches. So yes, but I think as you get more experience as a coach, you stop validating yourself from other people's successes and failures.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got a product that works. I think this is the difference now. I think in the academy, the product works, the system works. We've proven it fucking that many times now. The conversation is obsolete. So it's no longer a conversation. It's no longer a case study. It's no longer a theory. It works, and that's the end of it. And I think that on the journey to getting here today, while we was experimenting with things, then yeah, you do. But I think early on, as a coach, especially when you're testing a new product, if you like, because although this system works for me, it wasn't proven whether we could translate that into a lot of other businesses.
Yeah.
At the time. So you are looking for signs of success and failure in a hyper-vigilant way.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So you start to validate your own success and realize that your own success rests on them making it a success. And that it makes you feel uneasy when people fail. So when you know that you've got when you've got the right people, then it's easier because they do make it a success. So I feel like it's a long way of answering the question, but I want people to do well because I want them to provide for their families. Like, to be honest with you, I don't really look at the guy. I want the guy to do well, but I'm quite traditional in the sense that there's someone at the head of every family that ultimately provides.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not really him. I'm willing to go in on him. Yeah. The member, I'm willing to turn into mincemeat.
Yeah.
Because he's the sacrificial lamb. Do you know what I mean? He's the sacrificial lamb for his wife and kids or whoever he's providing for.
Yeah.
To me, they're the ones that matter. I don't look at him and think, you're a vehicle for me to do good in society.
Yeah.
I want to do good for you, but it's the kids and the wives and the holidays and the things that happen as a result of this business. And you just got to sacrifice, mate. You have to sacrifice. There's no way that you can get out of that. So and that's why I don't have sympathy for people. If you're not willing to sacrifice your own routine and your own time for your wife and kids, then you don't belong here.
Is that because, obviously, I know a lot of the sacrifice that you made.
Yeah, and I'm still am.
Yeah.
It's not over. I mean, fucking hell, I had a period of hideous, then I had a period of nice, and now I'm back in a period of hideous. Do you know what I mean? And it's been like that for fucking years again.
But do you think that that's because the life that you provided from your family because of the sacrifices you've made?
Yeah, 100%. And I've had Christmases with no money, kids on the floor playing with fucking toys that we got from a charity shop for 2 years on the bounce. And I know how, as a man, it makes you feel like, I don't think at the time you're actually aware of it. I don't think you are as aware of it as you think at the time, because it's just life.
Yeah.
It's normal. Do you know what I mean? You're like, we're just poor and that's that. But that isn't normal. Do you know what I mean? It's not supposed to be the way it's supposed to be. And your kids are supposed to, I believe, have better than that. And you're supposed to, as a man and a family provider, you know, not that it's only for men, but predominantly this is a male venture, isn't it? Let's face it. That's predominantly what it is. It's men trying to provide for the families.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I think of the lives that my kids have had a better life, a much better life, just because I've got a better attitude.
Yeah.
Simple as that. My attitude has affected their lives. It'll affect their children's lives. It propagates. The good attitudes propagate. So do the bad attitudes.
And do you think about attitudes now? Do you, obviously I know the answers to these questions, but do you feel that the way that you are now living, your attitude is right now, do you feel that is filtering through?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I spoke to a member this morning, and I asked him, you know, how it's going, what's the impact of the academy on your life, and he said, I spend way more time with my son. You know, I don't work Fridays anymore. He basically said to me, I've gone from working 7 days a week, having no fucking money, stressed, paying money into an IVA, just stressed out of his mind, asking his mother and father-in-law for money most months to cover bills, him and his wife having conversations every month about whether they were going to survive to see the next month. So now he's made 25 grand profit in the last 2 or 3 months, profit after everything, and he's got 5 months worth of cash in the bank. He's spending more time at home. He's a lot healthier. Yeah. His son's seeing a lot more of the dad. The wife's feeling, you know, because she goes to work with less stress on her shoulders. Do you know what I mean? The kids have a better life, and that's what it's about. And even though I'm saying, no, you can take the sacrifice, they don't even really take the sacrifice. They still have a good life compared to what they were doing. Do you get what I'm saying? But when it comes to them, like me having to do it about something, I'm gonna fucking do it. Do you get what I mean? Because I'm like, no, you fucking take responsibility for what's going on around you. Yeah. Like I did. Do you know what I mean? And I've seen the impact it's had on me. And this is what I just wish people would wake up and see, is that when you do it, the impact that can have on those around you. And and just think about the wider society as well. You're a role model. So again, you're going to become a role model to more people than you realize.
Yeah, and I think that's it, because we always talk about being the number one in their area and the go-to person.
Which is dead easy to do.
But it's also because it's a key part of any project, isn't it? Any kitchen projects. So I think if you have good values in your business and good work ethics, people around you in the wider community are going to feel those as well.
It raises the standard, and that's why raises the standard in your own life. It raises the standard in the industry. It gives consumers a better choice. Because one thing I spoke to this guy about this morning, and said, do you think if a customer heard that you were making that sort of money, that, because don't get me wrong, customers will go into Ren and give them all the money in the fucking world. But when it's a small guy, someone's got a problem with it.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? But do you think the consumer's getting a better service from you than they would from one of these big sheds? And he was like, 100%. So even though he's making more money, he's more relaxed. That consumer's getting the opportunity to spend time with a business owner with a professional support network around him, and not someone that works in a fucking showroom who doesn't really give a shit, who's on a salary.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And then just get a fitter who doesn't really give a shit because he's just fitting loads of kitchens and they're not even his, they don't even care.
Yeah.
So from the consumer's perspective, it raises the standard on so many levels, I think.
Yeah. Right. So we do touch on this quite a lot in the academy, but when somebody's a coaching client or in the academy is emotionally overwhelmed, we talk about burnout, potentially fear of failure, and imposter syndrome, which is a key one.
Yeah.
What's your first priority at that moment with that person
when they have these things?
Yeah.
Is realize how far you've come. Who were you 2 years ago? Are you that person now? Usually not. I think the rate of change, people don't recognize the rate of change is rapid, especially in the academy in particular, because, what normally takes businesses years, the academy is pumping out in 12 months, 18 months. This is a rate of growth and change in their lives that they don't even realize.
Yeah.
So they sort of arrive at where they wanted to be without knowing.
Did you ever feel any imposter syndrome?
What do you think about having imposter syndrome? while I'm doing what I'm doing now. Yeah, 100%.
And what do you do about how does it make you feel? What do you sort of do?
You need to know what value you're bringing to people. I think that's the main thing. I think the only thing that keeps you grounded, because there's a fine line between having imposter syndrome on one hand and then turning into an arrogant twat on the other.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think you've got to balance this really carefully. One, you've got to be your true self, which hopefully isn't an arsehole. And if it is, you're probably not going to get far anyway. I think you've got to know what value you're bringing to consumers. I always knew, I always had this arrogance around my bathroom and kitchen brand because I knew the value it was bringing.
Yeah.
I knew it because I knew what the rest of the market was doing. So I knew when I walked into people's houses, they'd love me. I already knew it.
Yeah.
Because I'd say all the right things. I'd give them everything they wanted it before they even wanted it because I knew what they were going to ask next. I had it boxed off. And that's what the Academy members are doing now.
Yeah.
But some of them don't realise it because they're following such a structured process. They probably need to take a step back from that and go, I'm offering immense value here. Yeah. And I know that like some people have the problem, and we know the ego people that we come across every now and then, that because this is Aaron's system, they won't follow it because it's not their system. Their ego gets the better of them.
Yeah.
But it's like learning how to fucking drive. Do you not drive your car the way your driving instructor told you because it's not your way of driving?
Yeah.
It's just fucking stupid to think like that. Do you get what I mean? It's like, it's just hideously ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think you've got to ground yourself in what progress you've made. If you're overwhelmed, think how far you've come. Take a breath. If you're overwhelmed, probably have a day off and have a think about these things and take the temperature out of the week and the day.
Yeah.
Because normally when you're overwhelmed, you think everything he's doing right now. And you need to sort of have a day off to prove that the world didn't collapse.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? It's like that day off didn't ruin everything and you thought it would. So sometimes you need to teach yourself these things and sort of force yourself to have breaks and sort of force yourself to do things that you feel like are counterproductive, but they're really not. You know, you need to get things in the diary, have the days off, have the holidays, you know, and the business survives without you. You know, things do carry on, you know.
Yeah.
So imposter syndrome, you just got to know what value you're offering. Like I do it, you know, especially at events when you've got a room full of people and they're all hanging on every word you say. But at the same time, I know what I'm saying to them is right.
Yeah.
So there isn't an ego attached to it. There's no sort of agenda. It's just, I want to help you build your business. Obviously you help us build our business, which helps us help more people, and it all propagates, you know. And I think that's because we know we're adding such good value into it. And remember, the Academy really is very cheap when you think about what it is. Fuck all. Do you know what I mean? When you actually look at it, it's nothing. So yeah, I think being tuned into the value that you're offering is the number one thing to, you know, not get imposter syndrome.
And I know we sometimes have a joke about it and go, oh, you know, we've got super fans. And at first you found it a bit awkward. And every now and then you still find it a little bit awkward, don't you? But
yeah, I mean, I think it's like when you said to me at the beginning, you know, because when we first started this, I wasn't putting myself out there, you know, and again, because I understood the value in what I'd created in my own business, I thought, fucking hell, it was a tough one.
Yeah.
Because I don't particularly want to be out there. It's not something that I aspire to have. You know, I don't have loads of followers online anyway and all that shit, but it's not something I aspire to do. You know, like the streams and the interviews and the content. It's not really something that I'm sat here going, oh, I can't wait to get in front of the camera and you know, rub my ego. So you've just got to, sometimes you have to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I think we should just touch on that a little bit more, because I think it's really funny, because I know one of the things that everyone struggles with at the beginning is the looms videos and everything like that. But you've been doing that for years and years and years. But then we had to transfer that loom video into sort of a bit more of a professional way of speaking to your new audience of the people you should be speaking to. And I know you found that difficult at first. It was uncomfortable, wasn't it, at the beginning?
Yeah, very uncomfortable, because we're tradespeople. We're not trained to be in front of a camera. Do you know what I mean? And it's not something that you would naturally do. You know, your camera was reserved for people on TV and, you know, things like that. And the world we're in now, you can't really avoid video. If you want to be successful, you've got to be able to get in front of a camera. these days it's not avoid. You cannot avoid it.
No.
But yeah, it is awkward. It's not natural. But what you realise is there's a direct correlation between the amount of video hours you record and your wealth.
For the academy.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. If you're putting it in the right place, the more looms you do, the more value you offer. Because video content like this, being face to face, is the same. It's offering value to people, you know. And I've always said this, and it's true, and it's just business maths. The bigger problem you're solving in the world, the more you'll get paid.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. Everything, and this is where market value comes in. Do you know what I mean? And that's where you've got to ask yourself, what problem am I solving in the world? Yeah. That is how you work out what you should be getting paid. It's as fucking simple as that.
Mm.
If I'm solving a big problem in the world, I get big money.
Yeah.
If I'm solving a small problem, I get small money. If I'm replaceable easily, then I might be solving a big problem, but I'm replaceable. Yeah. So it's a devalue, and do you know what I mean? It's all these things you got to think about. But in the modern world, the video content side of things, and doing looms, doing your social media, making yourself visible to the community around you, the more video you can get out there on social media, I guarantee this now, and if people pay attention to this, if we have Academy members that watch this now and go, right, I'm going to put more on YouTube, I'm going to put more on the fucking internet, I'm going to do better looms, I'm going to do more video on social media, I guarantee those people in 2 years from now will be earning way more than the people that don't do it. I would bet my everything I've got on that. Yeah. Because this is, video, and that it is the way forward. And that's why now I probably spend 40% of my week now in front of a camera. That isn't an exaggeration. Yeah. I literally spend 40% of my week in front of a camera, filming things for the Academy, filming things for all sorts of stuff now. We're doing all sorts, aren't we? Clinics, lives, events, just everything. Yeah. So, and it's not therefore, back to the point I'm making, our business is growing as a result. We're getting more exposure. Yeah. We're getting more people seeing what we're doing, more people joining the Academy. So that's because I'm constantly in front of the camera, and I'm becoming the face and the marketer of the business, and not the doer in the business. Yeah. And I think if people aspire to real success, like untangibly heavy wealth, if that's where they really want to go over the next 10, 15 years, not everyone needs to or wants to, but if you want to go all the way, you've got to be the marketer of your thing, and not the doer of your thing. Yeah. That is the holy grail. If you can spend the most of your week in front of a camera promoting what it is that you can give people in value, but you're not actually doing it. People that are doing more looms, YouTube, social media, the people that double down on that, because it's like when people watch when we get new Academy members, what do they always say? What have they been watching?
Oh, they've all been watching social media.
The videos.
The videos in the university and the Academy, and it goes out on the emails and everything. Yeah.
So when we've got video more intertwined into the sales process as well, so something that we need to do with the members at some point next year is probably have a video welcome from them that goes to the customer, because that's why the looms are in there. And people say to us, we always watch your videos, and then when we rang you up, and this might take, and this is what you got to remember, that video content being out there, it's out there for ages. Yeah. People see it, and then how long is it that people have been hanging around for before they actually get in touch with us?
Months and months and months. Yeah. Sometimes it's even over 12 months, but they're seeing very earlier in their journey, aren't they? And they're building up trust the whole time.
Exactly. And that's why video is so important. Because what you've got, every business that's deploying video as a strategy is got a secret funnel that they don't know about. Yeah. Because there'll be people out there watching them videos that have not made contact yet, but they're going to. Now, you can't really achieve that with anything better than video. And for a local kitchen and bathroom business or anything like that that's really on it with the YouTube, it's all the guys that say, I'm coming off the tools now, I've got more time. Yeah. This is where we'll push them next. We'll be pushing them down the video route next. So they build the proper, a proper dog's look around the business that real customers are like. They're watching their content for a long time before they get in touch, and they'll be flying at that point.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you maintain trust when you've had to give a coaching client or an academy member some really hard feedback that they might not want to hear?
I think, well, to go a step before that, I think sometimes you've got to wonder if they're ready to hear it, because some people can't.
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger problem, is that I think sometimes when it comes to really hard feedback, when you need to go in really hard, I think that's the first sign that you're pissing in the wind anyway. Because I can't think of one really successful academy member that I've ever had to go in on really hard.
Yeah.
So I think the telltale sign that if I'm having to go in on you hard, then there's something inherently wrong here, because you're not getting something. And I think that I sort of look a layer deeper than that. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And I go past the initial bit of feedback I'm looking to give and go deeper and be like, why are we having this conversation? Not what are we having the conversation about? Why are we having the conversation?
Yeah.
That's the first thing as a coach I would always ask. Someone says, oh, I'm not doing my social media. I'm not asked about what you're not doing. I'm asked about why you're not doing it.
So what are you, is there anything that you're in particular looking for there?
Are they focused? Are they distracted? Are they tuned into what their purpose is? Who do they care about more? Their own ego or the people around them?
Yeah.
Because the people who care about the people around them throw themselves, like I've said earlier, into the wolves. They sacrifice. They do what needs to be done to provide. And when someone won't sacrifice or admit that they're wrong, their ego's winning. And some people's egos are more important than the family.
Which is a hard thing for you to say.
I will fucking say it to them.
Yeah.
And I do say it to people, but normally when they go down that road, there's no return.
Yeah.
Because I've just hurt your feelings, and their ego wouldn't like that. Because remember, if I'm already talking to the ego anyway, I'm now not talking to them, I'm talking to their ego. And they either go and put their ego in its box, and they might do that temporarily, but usually it comes back and it wins again. And the ego will tell you that things are right. You know, how dare someone tell us that what we've done is shit and it's not perfect? And, you know, because we all live a lie. We all live lies. And it takes a massive bitter pill to swallow to admit that. And to some degree, we're all still living a lie now. There are things you're telling yourself now that are just comfortable. There are things that everyone's telling themselves now that are just comfortable.
Yeah.
They're not the truth. Do you know what I mean? And I think that everyone has to sit there and sit with those uncomfortable comments sometimes. But I think that if they won't self-reflect and it gets to the point where I've got to tell them, it's not going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be honest enough with yourself sometimes to sit there and go, am I trying as hard as I can do? And that's why I like it when people do check-ins and they say, I know that I'm supposed to do this, and then they go on. So the fact that they back off straight away and they get their ego in its box, but then they say, what a good sign is from someone is this: I know I'm being shit, but I want you to kick me up my ass.
Yeah.
That is basically, in a nutshell, what a good person or someone that's going to succeed will say. Because they won't come at it with excuses. They'll admit that there's reasons why they've not done it, but they won't make it an excuse.
Yeah.
There's a difference there.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
So how would you describe that difference between?
Well, the difference is like someone, I don't know, let's pick on someone who's maybe a bit older and doesn't like to use computers and makes the fucking argument that it's just too difficult and tries to make out like it's impossible. Like, this just can't be done for me. Like, that's just bollocks. If I put a gun to your head and said, learn it, or you're going to pull the fucking trigger, you'd learn it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So there you go, it's bollocks. You know, and if it's bollocks with the gun against your head, it was bollocks without the gun against your head. It was always bollocks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you've got to be able to distinguish the difference between, it's all right saying, and we get this a lot with check-ins, and people come to me and go, listen, I've been off the boil, I've had loads of shit at home. It's not an excuse, it's just a reason. And now I know I need to get back on it. What can you tell me? How can you help me get back on it? That's fine. Because you are owning it. Because we're all going to fuck up. Do you know what I mean? We're all going to drop the ball. No one wants perfection. I'm not perfect. There's days where I open the laptop and go, do you know what? I'm not feeling it today. I can't. And I say that to you sometimes, don't I?
Yeah.
Sometimes I say to you, mate, I'm not in the mood today. Don't fucking speak to me. Do you know what I mean? Or I'll just say to people, fuck off. Don't. Because if I speak to anyone today, it's just going to go west.
Yeah, but I like it when you do that, because I'll poke the bear.
You fucking do. But the point being is that you own it.
Yeah, you do.
And I know if I get to Thursday and I'm fucking burnt out because I've done a live on the Wednesday night and I've had a load of shit, something like that. So, you know, this happens occasionally. When you are not feeling it, you just pull away. Do you know what I mean? And I know sometimes, oh, fuck your mood, you know, get on with it and all the rest of it. There's knowing, again, this comes through experience as well, is knowing when sometimes you need to just actually, when your head's getting to the point of melt and you go, I'm struggling to focus, I'm starting to think negative, because another thing with overwhelm is just negative thinking.
Yeah,
it just fucks you up. So my advice would be finish work as soon as you can that day and go for a walk in the fresh air and just walk.
Yeah.
And even if you're not a walker, fucking walk, because that fresh air and blood pumping gives you clarity of thought, reset, get an early night. You know, maybe have a bit of a chilled morning the next morning, have a nice breakfast, maybe do something different. You got to break the routine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you got to shock your system into thinking, oh, this is different. So if do you get what I'm saying? You've got to do something different.
Yeah.
You've got to like snap out of it. Because it's just bollocks, all that overwhelmed stuff. It's just disorganization half the time, and, you know, not thinking clearly, clarity, not planning. You know, they're the things that create the overwhelm. It's not overwhelm itself. It's just that you've just got a bit busy in your head.
Yeah.
It's time to just have a bit of a reset. But yeah, you do need to. But that's not an excuse. That's just a reason, and that's managing it. You know, that's being sensible. Like I say, and if I lose a day because my head's burnt in the week, I'll pull a Saturday in or a Sunday or work late one night when I've got my energy back. That's the other thing, is when you've got the energy, fucking go.
Yeah.
Don't burn yourself. I'm guilty of going too far the other way, though. When I get the energy, I fucking can't stop. Do you know what I mean? And then I burn my head out the other way.
Yeah.
So, but that's toxic productivity. That, again, you've got to be. There's a trap door whichever way you go. You've got to try and keep it in the middle.
So this next question is probably geared around sort of somebody entering into this space. So what emotional blind spots do you see most often in business owners, and how do you help them see it without breaking them? Tapping into them navigating their ego, because a lot of the time the emotional blind spot is going to be they won't realise they've got an ego. Because a lot of their times that they've got an ego is generally because everyone thinks they're the best fitter in the world, but there's going to be vulnerability that's going to come in, that's going to cause them to be emotional because they are vulnerable. They're entering into stuff that's not. And also, it's a long-term change, isn't it? These people are going to enter the academy at one thing and then come out the other end. I know there's no end to that tunnel, but they're going to start to come out the other end completely different.
Yeah, I think the first thing to think about with that is you've got to know why you're doing things. So one emotional blind spot is that you don't actually know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and this is back to why we don't drag people into the academy and we don't pull people, we push them. But they've got to stand in front of us and allow themselves to be pushed.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? We can't drag them. And because they don't realise what it is they need. So their emotional blind spot is sometimes they don't know what they actually want out of life.
Yeah.
Whereas people in the academy that have done really well have been really clear on what the problem is that they're trying to fix. They know the pain that they've had before and they don't want it again. You know, so emotionally, they are aware of why they get out of bed, why they do what they do, why it's important to make a sale, why it's important to follow the process, why it's important to stay close to us, why it's important and what it means, and how these actions and this bigger, you know, meaning links into the emotional part of their life.
Yeah.
So so for instance, my early journey, let's say, was all because I wanted to get my family out of pain and me out of pain. Yeah. So that gets you going. And then obviously when your business starts doing a bit better, you go, actually, now I'm making a bit more money. I'd like to design the ideal life.
Yeah.
So my early journey was everything in business has got to be linked to an emotional thing. Yeah. You can't go into business just for money because you're not going to get it. Money doesn't like people that just want money.
Yeah.
Money avoids people that just want money. Money's a tool. Yeah. Money's a tool to grow your business. It's a tool to provide for your family, and it's a tool to do better things in the world. It's not something that's just there for the sake of it. It's just the money isn't the destination. The things that go on around the money, what the money is used for, is why you're doing it. So you've got to really know what those things are.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that I think a lot of people who enter this and then get a little bit of success is they then get a bit giddy, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, because in the academy, success does come relatively easy.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that we sort of say about it that's good, but it's also bad, is that you get amateurs thinking that they are better. The confidence and the skill aren't in line with each other.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? They're highly confident, but they're not very skilled.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's something where we say to people, the number one piece of advice for everyone that ever enters, stays, no matter how big their business gets, is stay close to us.
Yeah.
Because we'll keep them grounded.
Yeah.
And it's important for people that are getting going. It's important for people that are establishing themselves. And it's even more important for people who are doing well.
Yeah.
Because what the people that are doing well start to think is that, oh, do I know better now? Do you get what I mean? And it's like, have I completed it?
I'll warm this one up.
Yeah, and it's like, no, you know what I mean? And it's like, we see this pattern now, because obviously the academy isn't that old in terms of a business.
Yeah.
So I think that when you look at the cycles that we've seen with people, especially people that came in and did really well very quickly,
Yeah.
and then sort of plateaued for quite a long time, and then have realised, fucking hell, I'm not quite doing all the things in the academy that I should be doing, so I'm going to go at it again. And then they do the proper version of it. Then they do really well.
Yeah.
But what those people get is that they come closer to us.
Yeah.
Because I think people go really well, oh, I don't need them.
Yeah.
I fucking already leave.
Yeah.
The fuck do they know? It's all in the academy. I'll work it out for myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first banana skin that the people slip on. Because it's like, well, some people slip without even fucking trying, but those that do try, some, not all of them, but there's a good majority, I'd say, that go through that period of they get there without really consulting us very much, and then think that that's okay. But what they realize is that this blueprint, it's giving them confidence, but it doesn't necessarily mean they are developing skill to run a business.
Yeah.
So that's where the check-ins and the WhatsApp groups, I always say to people, you need to stay close to it. And that's why I bang on about it all the time. And they still don't do it as much as they should.
No.
But when there's a problem, who do they call?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? And this is what I'm trying to get out of as time goes on. And again, I think this will be the next evolution of the academy, that people will see that phase then.
Yeah.
That they'll start checking in more. They'll start using the WhatsApp groups more, because they'll realise that I don't know everything. And again, you've got to get that ego back in its box, because the ego might go away, let you do your bit, but then the ego starts to reform itself around this current business.
Yeah.
And then you get us coming in again, telling them how to do it again. And then you have the same battle you had at the fucking beginning.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So next one is, can you share a time when a client, coach client, ever made you question your own value or approach as a coach?
I'd say yes, when I was less experienced as a coach. Again, this all comes down to, experience in being a coach. And everyone, when I was doing general coaching, I had a lot of different businesses.
Yeah.
Hell of a lot of different businesses in terms of like, they're just all different and all different types of personalities, and fucking hell, it's really difficult. Business is very difficult anyway. You are statistically going to fail when you start a business. Statistically, only 3% of businesses get to £1 million turnover. 3%. And 80% of them have gone after 5 years.
Yeah.
So when you look at, not blowing like smoke up my own ass, but when you look at myself, I've been around now in this current business over, well, it'll be 10 years coming up, and it's a multi-million-pound business. So that, without being arrogant, that puts you in the top 1% of entrepreneurs, because not many people get there.
No.
Yeah. Now that hasn't happened overnight. But early on, when you're trying to work things out, yes, it makes you question, but because you're looking for validation of your own success. And when you're a coach, that success is sat in other people.
Yeah.
But when you are knowing statistically that they're going to fail, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Do you get what I mean? So you have got to be very stern, not just as a coach, but in business in general, that when you've got a process in the system that works, you fucking stick to it. Because the price of stepping outside of it is death.
Yeah.
It literally is death.
So I'm going to jump straight into the next question then. So when do you know it's time to stop coaching someone? How do you emotionally prepare for that decision?
I think in the academy, that'll never happen. That's the first thing to say, is that we ain't going to reach that point with people in the academy.
No.
There will be periods where people actually, I think, let me just peel back on that a sec. I think that if somebody has reached their goal in terms of they have no ambitions to go any further and they're just going to plateau and they're happy, there will be periods where they don't need you as much. A year maybe.
Yeah.
But the industry changes. And this is where people get complacent and also, because the thing is, if you're not evolving, you're not standing still, you're falling behind, because everything around you is evolving all the time. Technology is changing all the time. Principles in business will always be the same, but the techniques will change.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So a good coach and a good, like the academy, for instance, an academy member doesn't really need to sit and worry at night about where the industry is going. We do that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm for. I'm there to keep us ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So in terms of what, from the coaching aspect, it's never really finished, because you've got to stay in tune with what's going on. And I think anyone who sits there thinking the day will come where they don't need to be coached is not in control of their ego again.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think there has been occasion where people have said, right, I've had enough of seeing this. I can't learn anymore.
Yeah.
And that's been an uncomfortable conversation for the person that said it, not for us.
Yeah, because the thing is, they say these things, but they've not implemented the things that are happening.
Yeah.
And what they've reached a point there where they've not done it repeatedly. They know they have failed, and they cannot deal with that failure. Their ego won't let them accept that failure is them. So they deflect the blame. The ego wins.
So sticking to the coaching element, so there's certain emotional patterns that people, and I know that you touch on them in a few videos, but there's certain emotional patterns in business, like avoidance, people pleasing, and perfectionism. They're all traits that we've seen in the academy, people coming through. Which do you find it hardest to coach, or hardest to coach through, and why?
I think if any of them are out of balance, I think they all need to be in there. I think they all need to contribute to the end result of who that character is. I think the little bit of those things are all needed in all of us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I think that, but if any of them goes out of balance, it's impossible.
So do you think any could be coached through?
Yeah, I do, but they've got to self-reflect first.
Which would be the hardest one, do you think, for somebody to navigate with the support of?
Avoidant, not so much, because they're not really going to come a cropper until they've got project management to deal with.
Yeah.
So they could build a business and get fucked over later, because they won't. There's nothing much to avoid at the beginning, unless they're avoiding hard work or things like that. But if they're avoiding confrontation and that type of thing, then they're not going to really have that until later on, unless they take the coach on. Do you get what I mean? It just depends on how that manifests itself. People pleasing can, obviously that's a bit in all of us, but that's not really that. That's just sometimes when someone's a bit of a wet lemon. You know, people pleasers are just time wasters.
Yeah.
They just procrastinate.
Yeah.
Because they're always trying to please someone else. They're never doing what they should be doing. So yeah, that it can be coached through. But I think that perfectionism kills everything. Do you know what I mean? I think in business, perfectionism just murders everything. You know, it just really does. If you can't, the other ones you can sort of deal with in isolation, sort of at different times. But if you're a perfectionist, it will literally cripple you because you won't do stuff. It'll never be good enough.
Yeah.
So you will. I know quite a few perfectionists, and none of them are successful.
No, and I think you sum it up once, and you say you don't have to be perfect at everything. You just have to be good.
You just have to be good. You don't need to be perfect at fuck all. You know, I'm not perfect at anything. You know what I'm like. I'm like really a jack of all trades. You know, in every department. You know, I can sit and have an argument and a conversation about lots of different things. Do you know what I mean? But there's nothing that I'm really perfect at. You know, and I don't try to be. I just get a good enough understanding of everything to be able to hold an argument and hold a debate about it. Once I get to that point, I stop.
Yeah.
I don't. What's the point? You know.
Yeah.
And if you want perfection out of everything, you're going to be bitterly disappointed. You're going to die a very fucking disappointed person, aren't
you? Yeah. So, what's the most emotionally vulnerable moment you've ever shared with somebody and with a coaching client to try and maybe emphasize the point that you were making or build a relationship? And what did it do for that relationship?
I think that the time that I've really tried not to be upset and literally break down was probably at an event where I went through the 2 Christmases without money, you know. And I think a bit of me was because I knew some people in the room were also in that place, and you just really want people to fucking listen. You just want it to land. Do you know what I mean? And that pain, like when you're a bloke, especially, you don't show these things, do you? You don't put them on display. You know what I mean? And when you are telling people vulnerable things like that, and this was a room full of like 40, 50 people, it was one of the bigger ones that we did. You know, I remember fighting to get the words out because I was going through the story of, you know, not having money and having to sell my house almost. You know, that was the story that I shared, which was obviously when things were so bad, and I said to Christina, we need to sell the house, and we put it on the market, and things were bad. You know, it was the last resort. You know, it was fucking awful, and I remember telling that story, and you know, when we were doing that, I remember we had viewings on the house. We had people coming around to see the house, and we were going into a council house. That was the plan. We were giving up. You know, I tried to start a business. It hadn't worked. I was stressed out my fucking head. I was running around like a dickhead, doing loads of jobs. I was where most people are when they're trying to get the academy up and running.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I'd made some errors that were bigger than what they would normally make, in terms of I was trying to take more people, and I was trying to grow a business at the end of the day. I was just doing it wrong, you know, and I didn't realize I was doing it wrong until this moment where I realized everything that I'd done fucking wrong, but it was too late. I'd overcommitted with HMRC. I was well in fucking debt. I was like fucked. The only money I had that I could think of was the equity in my property. And, you know, when I went home and said to Christina, you know, we need to sell the house. And, you know, that's how you know when you got the right person next to you as well, because, you know, she's still stuck there. And our plan was, I remember saying to her, I said, business isn't for me. I actually said those words to that same woman that I'm married to now. And, you know, we're building the life we've got now because... And I said to her, it's not for me, this. I said, I can't do it. It's too fucking stressful. People are fucking stupid. You know, and again, listen to the ego in that. Do you know what I mean? Talk about your fucking ego being out of control. You know, And I was taking responsibility, but I also probably wasn't at the same time. You know, and that's one thing that people need to realize is that I don't preach from the ivory tower. You know, I've fucking been there.
Yeah.
You know, I've done all these things worse than they have most of the time. So that's how I know. That's how I know when I can hear that language. I fucking hear myself from years ago, and I'm like, just stop it. Do you know what I mean? Just stop it, because I know where you're going it, and it ain't fucking helpful. But you know, we back to the house. We had to sell the house and put it on, and basically go and move in a council house. And I remember where I was. I was next to the McVitie's factory in Burnage, in Longsight, that area on the 86. And I remember the estate agent rang me, and she said, "Right, because we had this family. They'd been to see the house. They loved it. We'd accepted their offer. We accepted the offer. I can't remember what it was, but it was one of the final stages of getting the sale over the line, basically." And I remember being upstairs. We was doing a bathroom. I'll never forget. I remember the fucking customer's name. I think he was called John. And I was in the bedroom upstairs, and the house was like empty. They were moving into the house, so our lads were in there. Fucking group of idiots. Shit everywhere. The house was a fucking mess. You know, the job was just a normal job. It wasn't going bad, but it wasn't going well. You know, it was one of them fucking just chaos. I remember being stood in the front bedroom, looking out the window, looking at Matt Vitty's factory, thinking, "Fucking hell, this is a nightmare." And then and I was really overweight as well. I was driving a £500 car. You know, it was just the fucking worst thing you could ever picture in your head. Just the worst fucking thing ever. And I remember looking out the window, and the estate agent rang me. She goes, "Oh, are you ready to accept this offer?" And I was looking out the window, and I was like, just gazing. And then I said to her, "No." I said, "I'm really, really sorry to let you down, but we're taking the house off the market." She went, "What do you mean? This is after like 15 viewings and fucking me." She must have been fucking fuming. But I was like, "I can't sell this house." I said, "So I can't sell this house." I said, "I've made a mistake. I'm really sorry. I know you've put a lot of time and effort into this, but I can't do this." And she was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It doesn't matter. Bye. Fuck it." And I rang Christina and I went, "I've took the house off the market." And she went, "What do you mean you've took the fucking house off the market?" She goes, "What are we going to do?" I went, "I ain't got a clue what we're going to do, but we ain't selling the house. We're not doing it. You know, we're going to have to get through this." And literally at that moment, that was where, for me, that was rock bottom, you know, and the route out of that was hell. Do you know what I mean? Because it was a fucking nightmare, because we weren't, only thing that changed that moment was my attitude. Do you know what I mean? But this was in the period when we had two Christmases with no money. It was a fucking shit time, you know. But had I have gone through with that at that moment, we wouldn't be sat here today. That was literally on the edge of the cliff. You know, if I'd have made that decision to sell that house, there was no way on earth I would ever have bounced back from that. Never. I definitely wouldn't have built a business that gave us this business model.
Yeah.
You know, that allowed all these other people to build businesses. It wouldn't have existed. You know, nothing would have existed. It just would have stopped. And I would have gone and got a job and lived in the council house and just been bitter for the rest of my fucking life. Yeah. So that was a story that I shared when I was, you know, the most vulnerable. And it's easier to tell it now, actually. But on that day when I shared snippets of that story, I really struggled in front of the room of people. I think when you got loads of people in front of you and you're like, fucking hell. I think a bit of that was imposter syndrome as well. Like, stood there telling that story in front of those people thinking, fucking hell, if I'd have made that decision that day, you know, the margins for error are fucking tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny. You know, it's really, really tiny. You know, you think that you've got all this time and space to play with, and you haven't. You have to make decisions and move forward, but sometimes just to finish on this point, you've always got two decisions. There's an easy one and a hard one, and it's never the easy one. Every single thing in front of you, ever, between now and the rest of your life, there'll always be two choices, and there's an easy one and a hard one, and it's never the easy one that takes you where you want to be.
And I think that as well is when we talk about you were very brave as well.
Well, yeah, it's awful. Yeah, because, you know, was one of the reasons why I wanted to pack it all in was so I could be at home more with the family, because I'd already missed out on the first few years of the kids at that point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I was sort of resigning myself to the fact that fucking hell, I'm not going to be home anytime soon now, then am I? You know, I remember that, you know, go into that period after that, I used to fucking have Red Bulls and go to the office until 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. You know, just hideous things that I used to do to keep the ship sailing, just not healthy. But you have to do what you have to do, and you have to do what it takes at the end of the day. If you're that driven and that willing, then it will happen for you.
Well, I think that story there, I think, sums up really what one of my other questions was: what part of your own emotional journey, past or present, do you not often speak about publicly, but deeply shapes how you show up for your clients? I think that's one of them, because I think that is sort of sums up the whole reason why this business is here. Why you're so the emotive reason to wanting everybody who's in the academy to succeed, and it isn't about, like you said at the beginning, it's not about that person. It's about what sits behind
100%. I mean, my ultimate goal, personally, is to see men and women do well, in the business and all that shit. But it'll always be difficult. Do you know what I mean? There's no point in dressing it up like it's a fucking walk in the park. It's always going to be tough. But life's tough anyway. And you might as well have a few quid in your pocket while it's tough, instead of fucking struggling while it's tough. Yeah. Again, there's an easy option and a hard option, but they're ultimately both hard options. Do you know what I mean? And I think that the emotional side of it is that I want the families out there. I think that, and I think society needs things like this right now. I think that's the bigger thing. We're at a point in history where businesses like ours and opportunities like this aren't out there that much anymore. But this is a monopolized industry. This is a difficult place to make money, but we're making it easy. We're making it accessible, and we're making it fair, and we're making it work for a lot of people where it hasn't worked before.
Yeah.
And I think that society in general needs more of this, spread the wealth instead of concentrate the wealth, and give people opportunities that deserve them, and let families, have, nice things for the kids to do, give the kids a better upbringing. These are our future. My kids are the future, your kids are the future, the academy members' kids are the future. People that are earning money can look after the kids and give them nicer outlooks on life. That propagates into society for decades and generations to come when you think about it. Do you get what I mean? And that's why the social impact of this business is way more important than the commercial impact and, anything like that. Because at the end of the day, I was doing okay before I started this. I've done all right. So I'm not saying I didn't need to do it. I did it because I wanted to. But I could have done other things and made just as much money and been just as happy. Do you know what I mean? But I chose this as a, this gives me what. Again, it validates my past, because we're all looking for validation of some description. So when I see people, emulating what I did and avoiding the pain that I avoided through what I did, and copying that, makes me feel good, because I feel that, they're getting what out of it, what I got out of it. And that's the point. Their kids are going to get a better upbringing, and I know there's loads of kids out there having a better night's sleep, and mums and wives having a much better time in life because of what we're doing.
So apart from the commercial aspect of the academy again, what do you think you're most surprised about? So forget about how, what surprised you the most about the academy?
I think when we first started the academy, I'll be honest with you, I think the first year I couldn't get rid of the feeling of dread. I think that dread followed me around quite a lot. And just to cut to the chase, I think we just had all the wrong people in the academy when it first started. Not all of them, but a massive chunk of them were just not the right people that ultimately would become good academy members.
Yeah.
And, that's not their fault. We made mistakes in that. What was out there at the time attracted those people.
Yeah.
And what's out there now attracts a different type of person. And I think what I'm most surprised by now is how easy people are making it and how quickly it's working for people. I think for me, that is the thing that I'm most proud of, and also the thing I'm most worried about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas at the beginning, you could see it was going to take people quite a long time. There's quite a few hurdles to jump through, but now I feel like it's working for people a lot quicker. But I think if people know again why they're doing it and what they need out of it, they can sort of get where they need to be, and we're there, and the whole team are there to sort of keep them in between the lines. So that's what I'm most surprised about, and I think that's the thing that is the best thing about it, is that it just works. The first version of it worked okay. The second version was better, but this version, really, without any reasonable doubt, is absolutely, the one. This is the model now that really does work.
I think you're right, and it's attracting a different type of person, because from what surprises me about the academy is how the community. We've always had a good community, but the dynamic of the community seems to be changing and evolving now. Whereas at the beginning it was very jovial and mates and lads getting together, and now it's support. Yeah. And the lads who are together are actually trying to support each other rather than be best mates. And there's a lot more support around, like emotional support and come on, you can do it, and that type of thing. So I think seeing the community from what it was to what it is now.
Oh, it's professional.
It's a professional, supportive, good place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think I'm a little bit jealous of the academy members, to be honest, because, I look at my fucking journey and think, I know people have had it hard, but when I go back through my stuff, it's been fucking hard. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've had to build that whole thing from nothing.
Yeah.
And think to myself on ground zero, how the fuck am I going to compete with that?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? That was my first thought. I can't afford a showroom. I know I need to supply products. That's what I need to do. How the fuck am I going to do that? And it was always, the first thought I had is the same thing I say today. You've got to build trust.
Yeah.
If I can get someone to trust me, I can get them to give me money. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
If you can get someone to trust you, they'll throw money at you.
Yeah.
And when you're in the shit, like I was, someone throwing money at you is a good thing.
So I think really my last question is, can the academy get people where they need to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's proven it time and time again now, isn't it? I can take them further than where they need to be. I think that's an interesting question, because I've had one member ask me on the Snowdon trip, so what's next? I was like, fucking hell, there we go. Is this not enough? But it was an interesting question, because it was like, this person hadn't done bathrooms before. They'd only done kitchens, and only through our advice and systems and support that they started offering bathrooms. And they've basically built a business in 18 months where they're not on the tools, they're doing bathrooms, kitchens, all the rest of it. They're selling, they're just basically a salesman. And some of the things that he was telling me about, how he's doing sales courses and he's learning, he's doing stuff outside of the curriculum, what we teach. And it was all good stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was all, because there's nothing wrong with doing stuff outside of it, as long as you don't try to change it. Follow the fucking process. If you want to put a few bits, enhance your sales skills and things like that, then fine. But yeah, I think that it works better than what I thought it would. I think that's what I'm, again, coming back to that point, is it's doing more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
I think the way I'd probably feel about the academy over the next 5 years, I think it's just going to have a life of its own.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're going to be able to control it.
So watch out.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, because it is a job. It's we have jobs and we have careers and this, but it doesn't feel like a job.
Well, I don't think you do have jobs. I think in life you have responsibilities.
So in this particular business, what's your favourite? What do you like most about getting up in the morning, and what's the best thing about this to you personally? What gives you the buzz?
I like it when other people have the buzz. I don't get a buzz. to be honest, in the day to day, because to me, I feel like I'm climbing up a rock face. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like, maybe one day I'll get to the summit and be able to look down and go, fuck it, I'm happy with that. But I feel like right now I'm on a rock face that's tilting back.
Yeah.
And I'm really having to be careful about how I climb it, because I've got such a big vision, and I feel the weight of the responsibility is the first thing I feel every morning when I wake up, if I'm honest.
So what's the worst thing you feel?
Well, that it's not the worst thing. I mean, let's just unpick this for a minute, because the best thing that I feel when I speak to people on interviews and they repeat back to me the things that I've said to them for years, and we always say, when someone repeats back to us what we've said to them, that's a moment of gold.
Yeah.
You know, we love that, and we know the importance of it, because we know that they're getting it and that they're seeing the results. So when you know, people have moved house, they've moved, they've bettered themselves, and when I see people achieve what I achieved, then when they get the family out and I see these new people emerge. I think when I see people change and I see them emerge into like little business owners, I think, right, I've done my bit there. That makes me feel amazing. Do you know what I mean? But it's hard as well. Do you know what I mean? And I always feel like the people that we didn't change, but then I come back to but you can't. And you have this battle in your head all the time. Do you know what I mean? You want to help everyone, but at the same time, you know you can't. So I don't think there's ever going to be a point of satisfaction where it's like, you know, you never, again, perfectionism, you're not going to get perfect in terms of what's the best thing about it. You know, seeing people change and hearing all that is really good. That's the best thing about it. The rest of it, the day-to-day for me is very, very tough. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a lot of people to manage in the business. It's a lot of problems that happen a lot. It's a lot of members that constantly need help, and everything always needs fucking changing. You know, there's always a Facebook Live coming up or a clinic coming up or an event coming up. It's really relentless. You know, it is really tough, because you think all these things, all this content, I do all the content. No one helps me with the content. You know, I do a lot of it myself, you know, and it is tough, you know, it's hard. And then the worst thing about it is, I wouldn't say it's the worst thing, but every morning I wake up with the weight of responsibility.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm really, because when you've had a business fail, right? When you have sat in a liquidator's office with the people that wrap your business up, you feel like a fucking ass. Yeah, you have fucked up, and you're paying thousands for the privilege to be humiliated.
Yeah.
When you've been through that, you don't want to do it again. And it's like, the higher you go, the further you fall. And I'm not saying I'm worried about falling, because I'm not, but you recognize sometimes we're at a bit of a height here. There is a bit of altitude now.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? There's a little bit of altitude, and it's like, yeah, you know, you wouldn't want to fall out of this without a parachute. But you know the parachute ain't there.
Yeah.
If it goes, it goes. And again, I'm not saying that there's any reason to think it would, but, you know, and I'm talking about us letting people down there. I'm not talking about the business failing. You know, we've got multiple revenue streams as a business. We're healthy. I'm not pointing towards any sort of issue. I'm just saying that you're only as good as your last result.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that you need to be very grounded in that. But, you know, the responsibility to make sure that the academy becomes what it should become in the long term, we're nowhere near where we need to be. Do you know what I mean? We're nowhere near. I think it's good. I think the blueprint's there. I think that people can make it a success. But in terms of what I see for the academy in the long term, we're fucking more than a decade out.
Well, we had a goal, didn't we? That when we achieved a certain milestone, that we were going to crack open the whiskey and smoke cigars.
Yeah, we never did.
And we passed that probably 3 times over, and we've still never done it.
No. Because I think the goal gets bigger, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I think, like I say, my ultimate goal, and I'm not saying I would ever plan to leave or, you know, exit, but I think that I know that my job's done when every fitter has had the opportunity to join and had a decision, yes or no. We're not saying everyone join, because that would be a fucking disaster anyway, because there'd be no fitters left on the fucking ground. But and every consumer can have the choice. I feel like ever since I've worked in this industry, it just felt like a very unfair place, where consumers get screwed, fitters get screwed, people that work in retail showrooms get screwed, people that work at the trade counter get screwed. No one really is the beneficiary other than the shareholders of PLC businesses and private, massive limited companies. And I know that sounds like, you're being a socialist. I'm not. I am a capitalist. But I think that it's just a very, very unfair industry. I feel like there's a lot of imbalance and it's very monopolized. And I think once that balance is restored, well, not restored, created, because let's face it, it's never been there. I think that then I'll be happy and I'll be able to sort of sit back and go, I've done my bit now. And those families and people that would otherwise have just been grafting for other people earning fuck all or just wages have now, we've created families and other businesses out of the back of this that can go on for generations. And I think that would be the point where I turn around and go, right, done. But the weight of that responsibility right now is very real. And you wake up with it every day, and you realize that you just got to keep going. And there will be setbacks and it ain't easy. It's not easy and it's not going to get any easier. It's going to get harder. So therefore we need to get better. And that's always got to be the way that everyone should approach their business anyway. The smooth seas don't make a good sailor, do they? The choppy seas are what make you good at, doing things well, and I think we've been through quite a lot of that already. I think, to be fair, we have weathered quite a lot of storms. But yeah, the worst thing is the feeling of that weight is not nice. And it's also good, because it also brings purpose. It makes me driven. But yeah, there's no ego attached to that in terms of, like when I go out on an event and stuff like that, I'm always obsessed with, my obsession is how do we make this better? How do we make their business better? I literally lose sleep over this all the time. Like, I literally can't. That's why the academy evolves and the services are changing. So people must get fucked off with it. And I know that people have left because I do it too much.
Yeah.
I know that people have said, oh, fucking hell, another change. That's why I've said, we'll have a year of not doing it because I feel like we've had to do it this many times to get to where we are.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're at a point where actually, let's give everyone a fucking break. That it's good enough. Let's let them run it for a year or two. But I can never stop thinking about how to make their brands better, and how to make their businesses better.
So I think that it's probably quite a nice place to end there, really, because it's the academy is ever evolving, which means that they will continue to grow.
Yeah.
No one will ever outgrow the academy.
No, and I think the interesting thing for me will be how big will some of these businesses get?
Yeah. Well, I hope those questions have kind of helped people understand that there's more to the academy from just, this is why. There's actually a feeling and a deep-rooted, reason for it to be
been built
achieved.
on pain, this business. It's been built on pain, and, the number one purpose of it is to help other people avoid the pain that the business was built on.
Yeah.
Because it isn't necessary. That's the thing that I want to point out, is what I did wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
It wasn't needed. And that's why I said before, I'm quite jealous sometimes of the academy members, because I think, fucking hell, you've got it fucking easy, and you're fucking whinging. I'm like, fucking hell, mate. You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, sometimes really turn it in, for fuck's sake. If you had to do it the way I did it, you'd be fucked.
Yeah.
And that's why if there was an academy when I was trying to do it, I'd have been flying, because, it would have took someone like me, 10% of my effort to be able to make it work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was unnecessary. I made a lot of stupid mistakes. I put myself and my family through way more shit than I should have done because it was fucking stupid. And, that's why I try to come down on people to stop them in their tracks when I can see them doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your honesty. I think we've done very well there because we've maintained composure quite a lot, because I know it can sometimes be a bit tricky for us. So, but no, thank you very much for that. And I hope everyone's found it useful.
You're welcome.